안녕하세요. 오늘은 약간 구도가 다르죠? 네, 드디어 구입했습니다. 촬영용 거치대를 마련을 했고요. 이거를 사고 잘 맞는지 확인하느라고 시간을 좀 많이 보냈네요. 그리고 이걸 하고 나니까 제 방이 너무 잘 보이는 것 같기는 한데 네, 뭐 하여튼 그래도 얼굴이 조금 작게 나와서 조금 부담은 덜할 것 같긴 하네요. 네, 그러면 오늘도 이 책입니다. 이 책 어제 읽었던 거 뒤쪽을 한번 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. It's been 10 years since I last lived in Cambridge, which was from 1993 to 1995, back when Bill Clinton was president. When I saw the Charles River again, a desire to run swept over me. Generally, unless some great change takes place, rivers always look about the same, and the Charles River in particular looked totally unchanged. Time had passed, students had come and gone. I'd aged 10 years, and there's literally been a lot of water under the bridge. But the river has remained unaltered. The water still flows swiftly and silently towards Boston Harbor. The water soaked the shoreline, making the summer grasses grow thick, which help feed the waterfall, and it flows languidly, ceaselessly under the old bridges, reflecting clouds in summer and bubbling with flows in winter, and silently heads toward the ocean. After I had unpacked everything, gone through the lead tape involved in moving here, and settled into life in Cambridge, I got down to some serious running again. Breathing in the crisp, bracing early morning air, I felt once again the joy of running on familiar ground. The sound of my footsteps, my breathing, and heartbeats all blended together in a unique, fully rhythm. The Charles River is a holy spot for regatta racing, and there is always someone rowing on the river. I like to race them. Most of the time, of course, the boats are faster, but when a single car is gradually rowing, I can give it a good run for its money. Maybe because it's the home of the Boston Marathon, Cambridge is full of runners. The jogging path along the Charles goes on forever, and if you wanted to, you could run for hours. The problem is, it's also used by cyclists, so you have to watch out for speeding bikes whizzing past from behind. At various places, too, there are cracks in the pavement you have to make sure you don't trip over, and a couple of long traffic signals you can get stuck at, which can put a kink in your run. Otherwise, it's a wonderful jogging path. Sometimes when I run, I listen to jazz, but usually it's wrong, since its beat is the best accompaniment to the rhythm of running. I prefer the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Godzillas, and Beck, and oldies like Creedence, Clearwater Revival, and the Beach Boys. Music with as simple a rhythm as possible. A lot of runners now use iPod, but I prefer the MD player I'm used to. It's a little bigger than an iPod and can't hold really as much data, but it works for me. At this point, I don't want to mix music and computers, just like it's not good to mix friends and work and sex. As I mentioned, in July, I ran 186 miles. It rained 2 days that month, and I spent 2 days on the road. And there were quite a few days when the weather was too muggy and hot to run. So all in all, running 186 miles wasn't so bad. Not bad at all. If running 136 miles in a month amount to a serious running, then 186 miles must be rigorous running. The farther I ran, the more weight I lost too. In 2.5 months, I dropped about 7 pounds, and the bit of flap I was starting to see around my stomach disappeared. Picture going to the butcher shop, buying 7 pounds of meat and carrying it home. You get the idea. I have mixed emotions about carrying around the extra weight with me every day. If you live in Boston, Samuel Adams draft beer, Samuel Ale, and Dunkin' Donuts are essentials of life. But I discovered to my delight that even these indulgences can be offset by persistent exercises. It might be a little silly for someone getting to be my age to put this into words, but I just want to make sure I get the facts down clearly. I'm the kind of person who like to be by myself. To put a finger point on it, I'm the type of person who doesn't find it painful to be alone. I find spending an hour or two every day running around, not speaking to anyone, as well as 4 or 5 hours alone at my desk, to be neither difficult nor boring. I've had this tendency ever since I was young. When given a choice, I much preferred reading books on my own or concentrating on listening to music or being with someone else. I could always think of things to do by myself. Even so, after I got married at an early age, I was 22. I gradually got used to living with someone else. After I left college, I ran a bar, so I learned the importance of being with others and the obvious point that we can't survive on our own. Gradually then, though perhaps with my own spin on it, through personal experience, I discovered how to be sociable. Looking back on that time now, I can see that during my 20s, my worldview changes and I matured. By sticking my nose into all sorts of places, I acquired the practical skills I need to alive. Without those 10 top years, I don't think I would have written novels, and even if I tried, I wouldn't have been able to. Not that people's personalities changed that dramatically. The desire in me to be alone hasn't changed, which is why the hour or so I spend running, maintaining my own silent private time is important to help me keep my mental well-being. When I'm running, I don't have to talk to anybody and don't have to listen to anybody. All I need to do is gaze at the scenery passing by. This is a part of my day I can't do without. I'm often asked what I think about as I run. Usually the people who ask this have never run long distance themselves. I always ponder the question, what exactly do I think about when I'm running? I don't have a clue. On cold days, I guess I think a little about how cold it is and about the heat on the hot days. When I'm sad, I think a little about sadness. When I'm happy, I think a little about happiness. As I mentioned before, random memories came to me too. And occasionally, hardly ever really, I get an idea to use in a novel. But really, as I run, I don't think much of anything worth mentioning. I just run. I run in a void. Or maybe I should put it the other way. I run in order to acquire a void. But as you might expect, an occasional thought will slip into this void. People's mind can't be a complete blank. Human beings' emotions are not strong or consistent enough to sustain a vacuum. What I mean is the kind of thought and ideas that invade my emotions as I run remains subordinate to that void. Lacking contents, they are just random thought that gather around that central void. The thoughts that occur to me while I'm running are like clouds in the sky. Clouds of all different sizes. They come and they go, while the sky remains the same sky as always. The clouds are more gases in the sky that pass away and vanished, leaving behind the sky. The sky both exists and doesn't exist. It has substance and at the same time doesn't. And we more accept that vast expanse that and drink it in. I'm in my late 50s now. When I was young, I never imagined the 21st century would actually come, and that, all joking aside, I'd turn 50. In theory, of course, it was self-evident that someday, if nothing else happened, the 21st century would roll around and I'm turned 50. When I was young, being asked to imagine myself at 50 was as difficult as being asked to imagine concretely the world after death. Mick Jagger once boasted that I'd rather be dead than still singing Satisfaction when I'm 45. But now he's over 60 and still singing Satisfaction. Some people might find this funny, but not me. When he was young, Mick Jagger couldn't imagine himself at 45. When I was young, I was the same. Can I laugh at Mick Jagger? No way. I just happen not to be a young rock singer. Nobody remembers what stupid things I might have said back then, so they is not about to quote them back at me. That's the only difference. And now, here, I'm living in this unimaginable world. It feels really strange and I can't tell if I'm fortunate or not. Maybe it doesn't matter. For me and for everybody else, probably, this is my first experience growing old, and the emotion I'm having too are all first-time feelings. If it were something I'd experienced before, then I'd be able to understand it more clearly. But this is the first time, so I can't. For now, all I can do is put off making any details, judgment, and accept things as they are. Just like I accept the sky, the clouds, and the river. And there's also something kind of comical about it, or something you don't want to discard completely. As I mentioned before, comparing against other people, whether in daily life or in my field of work, is just not the sort of lifestyle I'm after. Forgive me for stating the obvious, but the world is made up of all kinds of people. Other people have their own values to live by, and the same holds true with me. These differences give rise to disagreements, and the combination of disagreement can give rise to even greater misunderstanding. As a result, sometimes people are unfairly criticized. This goes without saying. It's not much fun to be misunderstood or criticized, but rather a painful experience that hurts people deeply. As I've gotten older, though, I've gradually come to the realization that this kind of pain and hurt is a necessary part of life. If you think about it, it's precisely because people are different from others that they are able to create their own independent selves. Take me as an example. It's precisely my ability to detect some aspects of a sense that other people can't, to feel differently than others and choose words that differ from theirs. That's allowed me to write stories that are mine alone. And because of this, we have the extraordinary situation in which quite a few people read what I've written. So the fact that I'm me and no one else is one of my great assets. Emotional hurt is the price a person has to pay in order to be independent. That's what I basically believe, and I've lived my life accordingly. In certain areas of my life, I actively seek out solitude, especially for someone in my line of work. Solitude is more or less an inevitable circumstance. Sometimes, however, this sense of isolation, like acid spilling out of a bottle, can unconsciously eat away at a person's heart and dissolve it. You could see it too as a kind of double-edged sword. It protects me, but at the same time steadily cuts away at me from the inside. I think in my own way, I'm aware of this danger, probably through experience, and that's why I've had to constantly keep my body in motion, in some cases pushing myself to the limit in order to heal the loneliness I feel inside and to put it in perspective. Not so much as intentional act, but as an instinctive reaction. Let me be more specific. When I'm criticized unjustly, from my viewpoint at least, or when someone I'm sure will understand me doesn't, I go running for a little longer than usual. By running longer, it's like I can physically exhaust that person of my discontent. It also made me realize again how weak I am, how limited my abilities are. I become aware physically of these raw points. And one of the results of running a little further than usual is that I become a much stronger. If I'm angry, I direct that anger toward myself. If I have a frustrating experience, I use that to improve myself. That's the way I've always lived. I quietly observe the things I'm able to, releasing them later and in as changed a form as possible as part of a storyline line in a novel. I don't think most people would like my personality. There's might be a few, very few, I would imagine, who are impressed by it, but only rare would anyone like it. Who in the world could possibly have warm feelings or something like them for a person who doesn't compromise, who instead, whenever a problem crops up, locked himself away alone in a closet? But is it ever possible for a professional writer to be liked by people? I have no idea. Maybe somewhere in the world it is. It's hard to generalize. For me, at least, as I read novels over many years, I just can't picture someone like me on a personal level. Being disliked by someone, hated and despised, somehow seemed more natural. Not that I'm relieved when that happens. Even I'm not happy when someone dislikes me. But that's another story. Let's get back to running. I've gotten back into a running lifestyle again. I started seriously running and am now rigorously running. What this might mean for me, now that I'm in my late 50s, I don't know yet. But I think it's got to mean something. Maybe not anything profound, but there must be significance to it. Anyway, right now I'm running hard. I'll wait till later to think about what it all means. Putting off think about something is one of my specialists. a skill I've honed as I've grown older. I try my running shoes, love some sunscreen on my face and neck, set my watch, and hit the road. With the trade winds wafting against my face, a white heron up above, its leg dutifully aligned as it crossed the sky, and me listening to my old favorite, the Loving Spoonful. As I was running, I was struck by a thought. Even if my time in races does improve, there's not much I can do about it. I've got older and time has taken its toll. It's nobody's fault. Those are the rules of the game. Just as a river flows to the sea, growing older and slowing down are just part of the natural scenery, and I've got to accept it. It might not be a very enjoyable process, and what I discover as a result might not be all that pleasant. But what choices do I have anyway? In my own way, I've enjoyed my life so far, even if I can't say I've fully enjoyed it. I'm not trying to brag or anything. Who in the world would brag up on something like this? But I'm not the brightest person. I'm the kind of person who has to experience something physically, actually touch something before I had a clear sense of it. No matter what it is, unless I see it with my own eyes, I'm not convinced. I'm a physical, not intellectual type of person. Of course, I have a certain amount of intelligence, at least I think I do. If I totally lack that, there's been no way I could write novels. But I'm not the type who operates through pure theory or logic, not the type whose energy source is intellectual speculation. Only when I'm given an actual physical burden and my muscles start to groan and sometimes scream, does my comprehension matter shoot upward and I'm finally able to grasp something. Needless to say, it takes quite a bit of time plus efforts to go through each stage step by step and arrive at a conclusion. Sometimes it takes too long, and by the time I'm convinced, it's already too late. But what you're going to do, that's the kind of person I am. As I run, I tell myself to think of a river and clouds. But essentially, I'm not thinking of a thing. All I do is keep on running in my own cozy, homemade void, my own nostalgic silence. And this is a pretty wonderful thing, no matter what anybody else say. 네, 여기까지 해서 1장이 끝났습니다. 잘 들리시나요? 읽으면서 어떤 문장은 정말 이해가 되고 어떤 문장은 저도 약간 헷갈려서 띄어읽기가 좀 이상했을 텐데 이 처음에 제가 그러니까 지난 시간인가 그런 얘기 했었죠. 제가 명상을 할 때 이 책을 읽어서 그랬는지 많이 와닿는 게 있었다. 네, 여기서 제가 가장 인상적이었던 게 뭐냐면 제가 이제 주로 하는 명상이 뭐 알아차림, awareness, 영어로는 mindfulness 이렇게도 표현을 하고 뭐 윗바사나라고도 하는데 알아차린다고 하거든요. 이게 말이 되게 웃겨요. 이해를 하고 나면 되게 별게 아닌데 이해를 하기 전에는 도대체 저게 말이야 뭐야 약간 이런 느낌이 들거든요. 근데 거기에서 이제 그 생각을 구름에 비유를 하거나 영화관에서 영화를 본다라고 생각해라고 이렇게 비유를 되게 많이 해요. 여기 보면 이제 그런 얘기가 나와요. 하루키가 이렇게 뛰니까 이제 사람들이 물어본다고 하죠. 여기 보면 뛸 때 무슨 생각하세요? 이런 거 물어본다는 거예요. 근데 하루키 표현은 그거죠. 그런 걸 물어보는 사람은 장거리를 뛰어본 적이 없는 사람이다. 이렇게 딱 단어를 하죠. 그리고 얘기해요. 생각을 하기는 하는데 나도 잘 모르겠다. 더울 때는 날씨가 덥구나 생각하고 추울 때는 날씨가 춥구나 이런 생각한다. 사실 생각 자체는 중요한 게 아니다 이러면서 그 생각은 구름이고, 그러니까 구름이라는 거는 계속 변하고 그때그때 지나간다. 하지만 그 구름 뒤에 있는 하늘은 항상 똑같다. 이제 이런 얘기를 한단 말이에요. 근데 명상할 때 이런 표현 되게 많이 하거든요. 그래서 그랬는지 저는 이게 되게 인상적이었어요. 혹시나 이 책을 읽으실 거면 다시 한번 읽어드리면 The thoughts that occurs to me while I'm running are like clouds in the sky. 이렇게 시작하는 문장이 있어요. Clouds of all different sizes, they come and they go while the sky remains the same sky as always. 하늘은 항상 하늘이라는 거죠. 구름이 왔다 갔다 하지만. The clouds are small gaps in the sky that pass away and vanish, leaving behind the sky. The sky both exists and doesn't exist. 이 문장이 되게 와닿았던 것 같아요. 하늘은 거기 있지만 없기도 하다 이런 거. 그래서 네, 사실 이 책을 저는 영문판 읽기 전에 한국어 버전을 읽었었고 그때도 되게 멋지다고 생각은 했었죠. 근데 되게 좀 시간 텀을 두고 나서 영어 버전 책을 읽게 되고 또 이제 그때 명상을 하면서 이거 되게 멋지다. 그리고 또 그때 어떤 생각이 들었냐면 뭐 이렇게까지 말하면 좀 웃길 수는 있지만 어떤 거에 있어서 통달한 사람들, 어떤 경지에 이른 사람들은 이해의 방식이 똑같구나. 저는 적어도 그렇게 생각을 했어요. 물론 뭐 부처와 하루키가 똑같다라고 얘기를 하면 환호하는 사람도 있고 싫어하는 사람도 있겠지만 저는 제가 하루키를 좋아해서 하루키가 쓴 대부분의 책들을 읽었거든요. 그거를 먼저 읽고 제가 명상을 하면서 이제 뭐 이렇게 불경까지는 아니지만 하여튼 부처가 했다고 하는 여러 가지 그것들을 읽었을 때 비슷하다는 생각, 관통하는 게 있다는 생각을 되게 많이 했어요. 그래서 다시 한번 저는 하루키가 되게 멋지다라고 생각했죠. 물론 부타도 멋진 사람이라고 생각합니다. 뭐 어쨌든 하여튼 네, 그래서 오늘 1장을 끝을 맺었고요. 네, 사실 어제부터 약간 고민이 뭐냐면 그러니까 저는 영어 읽기를 제가 좀 하고 싶다는 욕심이 있었어요. 그래서 누가 보든지 말든지 간에 내가 좀 영어 읽기를 해야 되겠다라는 생각을 했고, 근데 하루키를 좋아하니까 하루키 읽어야 되겠다 이러면서 이제 이거를 집어들기는 했는데 지금 하는 생각은 혹시라도 누가 이걸 들으시는 분이 있다면 과연 그에게 이 낭독이 과연 편안함을 주는가라는 생각을 좀 하게 되는 거예요. 제가 들어봐도 이렇게 썩 이렇게 편하진 않아가지고 그래서 살짝 좀 고민 중입니다. 시작했으니까 끝내야 되겠다라는 욕심 한 가지와 혹시라도 있을지 모르는 나의 구독자를 위하여 과연 이것이 내가 그에게 할 짓인가, 이렇게 뭔가 이렇게 떠듬떠듬 읽는 영어를 누구에겐가 들려주는 것이 과연 내가 해도 되는 짓인가, 약간 이런 좀 고민이 들고 있어요. 그래서 그러게요, 좀 고민이 되네요. 계속 영어 읽기를 해야 되는 건지 아니면 그냥 한국말 읽기로 바꾸는 것이 나을지 그건 좀 고민 중입니다. 제가 만약에 구독자가 많거나 보는 사람이 많으면 댓글 남겨주세요 막 이럴 텐데 뭐 그런 상황은 아닌 것 같고, 어쨌거나 고민은 하고 있다는 거는 네, 알려드리면서 뭐 저도 좀 생각을 해보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 오늘도 들어주셔서 감사하고요. 누군가 계신다면 계실 거라고 믿어요. 있겠죠? Anyway, 하여튼 그러면 또 시간이 늦었네요. 오늘도 만나서 반갑고요. 과연 만난 사람이 있었는지 잘 모르겠지만 그러면 오늘은 여기까지 하도록 하겠습니다. 자, 그러면 오늘은 좀 얼굴이 좀 멀리 있어서 다행이죠. 네. 그러면 또 다음에 봐요. 안녕.